Testing, testing, 1, 2. Good morning, radio stations. The daily press briefing would start in about 1 minute time, so please stay tuned. In 40 seconds. Radio stations will go live in 30 seconds. Okay, radio stations will go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning and welcome once again to yet another press briefing hosted by the Office of the Prime Minister for today, Friday, November 24, 2017. As updates continue post-Hurricane Maria, I am Kamala John Baptist Aaron, Press Secretary. This morning, the press briefing will focus on the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development. You would imagine that based on the infrastructural damage that Dominica suffered as a result of Hurricane Maria, the school buildings in Dominica, the various plants across the country suffered, and as a result, there have been a situation in which schools have had to taking back on school at different times, points in time, and some of them are still out. We have the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Chandler Hyacinth. She will first give an introduction, and the Chief Education Officer will also give a state of play of the situation in more detail, Miss Melina Fontaine. Just to acknowledge also present here, the Assistant Chief Education Officer, let me correct that, Dr. Jeffrey Blaise is also present, and I always want to say a very special good morning and welcome to my colleagues here from the media present at the press brief room, and all of you listening across Dominica and way beyond who make it a point of duty to listen to the updates hosted by the Office of the Prime Minister. Without any further ado, let me call now on the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Mrs. Chandler Hyacinth.
Good morning. Good morning to all listening public. This morning we have with us the Chief Education Officer, Mrs. Melina Fontaine. We have the Assistant Chief Education Officer, Dr. Blaise. And we also have the local registrar, CXC local registrar, Miss Magali Celestine. This morning we are going to give you an update as to the status of our schools, which ones are opened, which ones are to be opened, which ones we're still having challenges with, and we'll also give updated information on other matters as it relates to education. As we are in the post-Hurricane Maria recovery period in the Ministry of Education, our focus is on providing temporary learning spaces for all our students to be back at school. So we are feverishly making arrangements to provide all our students with learning spaces, whether it is temporary or whether it is in the original structure that is safe for use. Our main goals is to provide access to all students to ensure that the facilities that we offer is safe, and we are especially placing emphasis on the wash facilities to ensure that our students have good drinking water. The washroom facilities are safe for use. So without much, I'm going to introduce the Chief Education Officer, as she will give you the specific information as it relates to the opening of schools and what is happening in our schools presently.
First, let me start by acknowledging the presence of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Assistant Chief Education Officer, CXC Local Registrar, members of the media who are here, and the listening public. Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'm going to give you a status of all our schools. At the beginning, we were announcing the reopening of schools, but as we went along, there are some that we did not announce. So I will be giving you a status report on all of our schools in Dominica. Out of the 58 primary schools, 49 of them are now open. And out of the 15 secondary schools, all of them have now reopened. However, out of the 49 primary schools reopened, 42 have opened for all students, while 7 for the upper grades. And 8 primary schools are still shelters. 9 primary schools have not yet started. Out of the 15 secondary schools reopened, 9 have opened for all students, while 6 are opened for the upper form levels. 3 of our secondary schools are still shelters. I will now call the primary schools that are presently open according to district. So in the Northern District, the following schools are open for all students: Dublin, Jordan, Wesley, Thibault, Penville, St. John's Primary, Temple SDA, Clifton, W.S. Stevens, Baroness Patricia Scotland in Vickers, Benz, Calibishi, Paybush Primary School. The students of Colliho are attending school at and with the students of Kulibistri while their school is presently being renovated. The 2 schools in the north, will open for all their students on Monday coming, November 27th. Roosevelt Douglas Primary at their site, Roosevelt Douglas Primary School, and Woodford Hill will be on a shift with Wesley Primary. School will start for all students beginning at 1:45 to 4:30. The students will be bused to the school. As a result, students of Wesley Primary School will attend from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Works is ongoing at the Savonpai Primary School, and therefore reopening will be announced at a later time. In the Southern District, the following schools are open for all students: Newtown, Wharton Waven, Pettit Savannah at Bath Estate, Mont Prosper, Tetmon, Granby. Tetmon is occupying the community center at Tetmon. Girondale, all the students are housed on the property of the Girondale Village Council on the site of the flower show. Their building is now being rehabilitated. At Soufriere Primary, the students from grades 1 to 6 are attending classes at the Catholic Church Hall on a shift system. Grades 1 to 3 are attending from 8:30 to 12:30 a.m. 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., while grades 4 to 6 are attending from 12:45 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. At the St. Luke's School, the students from grades 1 to 6 are attending. At Bagatelle Primary, the students from grades 5 and 6 have been attending, but from Monday, November 27, school reopens for all the students from grades K to 6. Bellevue Chopin will open for grade 6 on Monday, November 27. All other students will report on Wednesday, November 29. Trafalgar is still a shelter, and therefore we are working on the relocation of the people with Ministry of Social Services and Housing to relocate them before bringing in the students. In the Western District, the following schools are open for all students: Caleb John Laura in St. Joseph, Coolibistry, Berrien Academy, Western District SDA in St. Joseph, St. Mary's Primary, Campbell, Salisbury, Christian Union Primary, Pioneer Prep, Ebenezer SDA in Roseau, Convent Prep. All the students of Maho Primary are now attending school at the Maho Community Center. At the Massac Primary School, only students of grades 2 to 6 are attending. At the St. Martin Primary, students of grades 4, 5, and 6 are attending. Students of the Rosa Primary will share the space of the Petite Savane Primary School at Bath Estate and will reopen on Monday 27th for grades 5 and 6 from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and grades 1 to 4 from 12:45 to 4:30 p.m. As a result, the students of the Petite Savane School will start at 8:30 a.m. and end at 12:30 p.m. The Goodwill Primary School will remain closed for at least one more week while renovations to a section of the school is being completed. In the Eastern District, the following schools are open for all students: Grand Fond, Salibia, Bells, Saint-Sauvé, Montjean, Jones-Beaupierre, Lighthouse, and Delices. Lighthouse is occupying space in the church. The students of grades 5 and 6 at the Siniku Primary School attend classes at the Siniku Resource Center, while grades K to 4 attend classes in tents on the school compound. All the students of the Cassabruce Primary School are now attending classes at the Cassabruce Secondary School from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. At the Atkinson Primary School, only students from grades 5 and 6 are attending school at the Atkinson Resource Center. Concord and Warner Primary Schools are shelters and are still closed. Secondary schools. All 15 of the secondary schools are now opened. However, only 9 are open for all students, while 6 are open for the upper forms. The 9 schools that are open for all students are Pierre Charles Secondary, St. Martin Secondary, Dominica Community High School, Orion Academy, St. John's, Convent High School, St. Mary's Academy, Wesley High School, Dominica Seventh-day Adventist School in Portsmouth. Isaiah Thomas Secondary, Cassabruce Secondary, Portsmouth Secondary, and Northeast Comprehensive have phased in their students, and so as of Monday, November 27th, all 3rd, 4th, and 5th formers are expected to report to school. At present, the 4th and 5th formers at the Dominica Grammar School and Goodwill Secondary School are sharing the Dominica Grammar School New Wing on a shift system. Students of the Dominica Grammar School attend from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., while those from Goodwill Secondary School attend from 12:45 to 4:45 p.m. A total of 27 schools are using tents together with some parts of their school building or another building to house their students. With regards to psychosocial support, 842 teachers from both primary and secondary schools have participated in psychosocial support training. And as we speak, psychosocial support training is ongoing for teachers in the early childhood sector and the special education schools. And the intention is that as soon as their students come in, they're expected to do at least a 3-day psychosocial support program with all students. As mentioned previously, all schools operate from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. except if they are on a shift system. School will close for the Christmas vacation on December 20th, 2017 and reopen for the second term on January 3rd, 2017. We want to thank all the officers who are committed and working hard to ensure that our students access their education in the quickest possible time. I also want to thank the principals and teachers who are leading the way and doing all in their power to get school going. We know that you are working under extraordinary circumstances, and we thank you for the sacrifices that you continue to make as you work on sorting your personal affairs while managing your professional life. Thank you to all the external agencies. I know PS will say some of that, but I wanted to say some of it too. Thank you to all the external agencies who are working alongside us in the recovery effort. Dominica will always be eternally grateful. And the Ministry of Education, my office, our staff will continue to work to ensure that all our students have access to their education by the end of December 2017. I now hand over back to the Permanent Secretary.
The Ministry of Education, it also has responsibility for library and information services. As we are well aware of, the public library on Victoria Street is completely damaged. However, we are still operating out of the documentation center, and we want to announce that from Monday 27th November 2017 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. we are offering public library services, that is referencing homework assistance, internet, computer assistance service, and photocopying to the general public from the documentation center building, government headquarters. So students, we are making spaces available for them, and for the other persons in the public, they can use the documentation center for referencing, research, homework assistance, internet service, and for photocopying. With regards to CXC matters, we know that parents are concerned and parents have been asking questions. We want to inform the general public, in particular parents of students in fifth form, that registration for CSEC and CAPE examinations 2018 has been extended to Monday 8th January 2018. So registration still continues and it will end January 8th 2018. We are encouraging our students to work on their school-based assessments and to submit those, as that will certainly improve their chances at getting better grades with their exams. We have been given special extension by the CXC, the examination body. However, the deadline at schools for all SBAs is April 30th. If the need arises, special consideration will be given based on the requests from schools. The CCSLC registration remains at January 31st, 2018. We also want to encourage performers and students doing CAPE to make use of the CXC Notes Master. This is available on the CXC website, the Caribbean Examination Council's website. Persons can access and interact with other students, other teachers on the Notes Master page. This can be accessed on the CXC website, and go on to when you go onto the front page of the CXC website, you will see the link for the Notes Master. Persons have to register, put in a username and a password, and there you have access to notes on various subject matters. We want to encourage our students to make use of the Notes Master facility, which is provided on the CXC website. There's a lot of information there that students and schools can use. Teachers can also register on the site, and they can input. They will have access to input material on the site that students can use. So we want to encourage persons to use the Notes Master site. Sometime later, we will be working with CXC and the Ministry of Telecoms to further promote the Notes Master and to encourage persons to register and to do more training in how to use the Notes Master page on the CXC website. As we focus on the rehabilitation effort, currently we have rehabilitation works continuing at many of our schools. We want to express our deepest appreciation to the soldiers from Belize who are working at the Dominica Grammar School. They are rehabilitating 2 co-houses there for us, which will provide us with additional space. Once we can complete the cabins at grammar school, we can extend the number of forms, the number of students which will be able to have classes. We are also doing works at Massac Primary School, and we have the forces from Trinidad assisting us there. They are almost complete with those works. We want to show our appreciation, and we want to say thank you to them too as well. We have also the Cubans. They are doing the complete renovation works at the Coliho Primary School. This works is ongoing, and we're looking forward that once this work is completed, Coliho can return to Coliho for their schools. Presently, we have a group of firefighters from France working with rehabilitation works at the Girondel Primary School. We also want to say our appreciation to those. We are also in the process of engaging local contractors to do rehabilitation works at some of our other schools so that we can have access for more students. There are also other organizations working with us, but these works have not started yet. We want to use this forum to express our deepest thanks to all the persons who are assisting us in communities where parents and volunteers have assisted us in removing the debris and doing repairs with spreading the tarpaulins. We want to say thank you to you, and we're asking the communities to assist us because there's still a lot of work to be done so that all our students can have access to schooling and they can have access to a safe, comfortable environment for their schooling. The challenge is great, and we look forward to the community assisting us where possible. Thank you.
Thank you once again to PS Hyacinth. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we will open the floor for questions from the media, for the officials here from the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development.
Good morning, everyone. Julian Morris, Channel 5 News. Appreciate the opportunity, as always. I was just wondering, I know generally as far as SBAs are concerned, some students need to use labs and so on. Are there any challenges there in that area in terms of the impact of the storm on facilities and so? Do you have any challenges to speak of in that area, or is everything okay as far as them being able to adequately do their SBAs?
With regards to SBAs, CXC would have introduced last year online submission of SBAs. So students would have had to prepare their SBAs using computers. This year, because most of our computer labs have been impacted by the hurricane, that provision is relaxed. So our students can submit their SBAs in handwritten form. Okay, so those students with the ability to type and present their work in a typed format, that they can do. But those in the rural areas, where we still have challenges with computers, they can submit their work as handwritten work, and we will work with CXC to submit those for 2018 examinations.
Are you saying, Mrs. Harrison, but in the urban areas there are challenges with computers because
I'm not saying that.
You're not saying that. No. All right.
But you have students who still have access to computers and they can do their work using computers.
Access to the internet. Okay.
As you hear, I have another question here. Just came in. What's the latest as far as the tents at St. Martin School? What I'm understanding is that some parents would like, I guess, full-time school or classes. So what's the status of that?
Remember that St. Martin is a private assisted school. We are working with them, but St. Martin is a private assisted school. So we don't have any information with tents for St. Martin School.
Okay, from me personally,
they have not made a formal request to us for tents for their school so that they can expand the access for all their students.
Okay, let's hope that answers that individual's question. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, I wanted to ask about this. I'm not sure to what extent you still have school plants, school buildings that are yet to be cleaned up, and so I think I drove across one. I think Pishle it is.
Pishle has been closed as a school since last year. We have not used Pishle since after Erica. Okay. The students have merged with Grand Bay and Bellevue. So Pishle is not.
Okay. Are there instances where you foresee you're going to have to probably I'm talking now about student populations at different schools. It seems, well, this is dwindling in certain areas. You have smaller student populations in certain schools. Do you ever see yourself collapsing some, let's say, two nearby schools into one, let's say, in terms of being more efficient?
Those are plans that we are looking at. Those are things that we are looking at for the future.
Is there any set date for removing the persons residing at the shelter schools that are used as shelters? Is there any set date for removing them? Is there any plan in place?
The Ministry of Education cannot remove persons at the shelter. So maybe removed is not the preferred word. It's a collaborative process to have the shelters emptied. And we are working with Ministry of Social Services and we are working with the Ministry of Housing. Presently, temporary housing facilities are being built for persons in shelters, especially where we have sick elderly persons. Okay, so it's a collaborative process with other ministries.
Good morning, Rhonda Luke from the Chronicle newspaper. Now, we know that there are a lot of students who are currently out of schools. no part. Currently, is there any plans in place maybe for Easter to kind of maybe eliminate that holiday and students who may have lost schools due to the passage of Hurricane Maria to have them back in or stay at school?
Easter is a very short break. We usually end Wednesday, and school is 1 week. It's a 1 week break, and school reopens the following week. And even for fifth formers, there's no break there, because during that week the exams has started for them. Usually we have physical education, paper 3 exams going on. We have orals for French and Spanish going on. So even for fifth formers, that is not really a break. Parents have chosen to have their students, have their children overseas. Again, when they returning those children back to Dominica is still up to parents.
Any consideration for the schools? They said 9 schools are currently open or reopened, sorry. Any consideration to have students from the out district move to those schools so that they can currently have access? Sorry, out of the 49, 9 are open access to all students. So all students are back in school, is that correct?
And there is also arrangements within schools that parents who wish to move their children to other schools, because in their area there is no access, parents still have that option. And we will facilitate those moves where students are at home and parents who don't have them in a school which is open. That arrangement is also available to parents.
Is there a status update on the All Saints University, or?
No, we do not have a status update on them.
Yes, I wanted to also ask you about you alluded to it, you kind of hinted to a little earlier about it, because following the hurricane we saw a number of parents having their students sent abroad for school to ensure continuity of their education and so on. I was wondering to what extent, how has that impacted our student population overall? Where are we, if you have any figures? How has that been impacted us? Sorry.
Okay, we do not have actual figures on the number of students that have migrated, because we have students migrating from different areas. It's early childhood, primary, secondary, and college level. Because schools are not open fully, we still yet are unable to know the actual numbers of students who have migrated. Now, the Ministry of Education in almost all the islands have such numbers, so we are working with them to get those numbers. The only island that really is organized in receiving our Dominican students was Antigua. They had a desk at the airport, so all Dominicans coming in, they will register in. Even Dominicans that would transfer out in transition to other countries, they will register in. There's a desk at the Ministry of Education registering those students. So we know that in Antigua we have over 400 students in Antigua. They are facilitating the placement of those students at schools. They have even gone so far as to facilitate an education grant to some students to be able to furnish them with uniforms, textbooks, and so on. And I know there's a special committee working with the Dominican families, even for placement of students at schools. We don't know that such arrangements exist in some of the other islands, okay? But in terms for us, because parents move out without informing some of the schools, even the schools of themselves are not sure where their students are. And some of the students are not just in Caribbean islands, like the OECS. Some of them are in Guadeloupe, some are in Martinique, some are in Canada, some are in the United States, some are in Britain. So our students are everywhere. And maybe when we fully open all our schools, we will be able to appreciate the numbers that have migrated and to be able to assess the impact on the education sector.
Can
I just add something to what Just to add to what Mrs. Hyacinth is saying in terms of the other islands, because not too long ago I was at a meeting of all chief education officers of the OACS, and they did indicate, you know, that they are getting our students and they are going to share the numbers with us. But I had the opportunity to visit one school where we had about 7 children. They had 13, but the Sunday 6 of them came back. And the children, I just want the parents, you know, from who have children in St. Lucia to know that the children are very happy and they are taking good care of them. So the chief education officers from the other islands, they did indicate that they were willing to assist us, and when our children are ready to come back, they will willingly let them come back to their home country. But they are providing for their needs, and they are also providing for their psychosocial needs. So that was, you know, good to hear from them, and I just want to share that with the public.
On that same note, at CXC level, CXC is making arrangements with local registrars across the region to track Dominican students writing CXC. Because some of our students will write CXC in other Caribbean islands. So special codes are being created for Dominican students so that we will be able to track the CXC results of those Dominican students in other Caribbean countries. So they wouldn't be registered as Antiguan or Bajan, and then they get lost in that system, and we wouldn't be able to track their results. CXC is working with us in that regard too, so that we'll be able to track those at the fifth form and at Cape level as well.
Getting back fully, that is to, what should I say? All right. You expect to have your students and the schools really back and running pretty soon. Is there a timeline on that? What deadline can you give us?
We are hopeful that by December we can have all our students back at school, either in temporary spaces or in their traditional structure. We are working feverishly to do the rehabilitation works that we need to do so that we can have all our students in schools.
Shortened hours would probably mean, you know, an effect on the syllabuses. Have you taken that into consideration? What can you tell us about that?
For the primary schools, we have relaxed the curriculum, and the emphasis is on our main core subjects. So we are working with the schools in that regard. For the secondary schools, we cannot change the syllabus because we are working with the regional examination body. We just want to encourage our teachers to maximize the time that we have at school, and we want to encourage the students to make use of the shortened hours at school. Do not waste time, and make use of the daylight hours at home that they have to do their work. We still see some students who still are not putting in the extra time to do the work that is required. We know there is shortened hours, but we expect our schools to make maximum use of the time, and we expect our students to make use of the time at home to do their revision work and to prepare themselves for exams.
Advice for parents and students who are not within the system. When I say not within the system, I mean not at school. What advice can you give?
Especially where the students have their texts. We want to encourage them to do their work. Especially in the primary schools, we know from the books that they have to get, they are workbooks. We expect they want to encourage them to do reading. We want to encourage parents who can assist where possible, spend some time with them to do extra work with them. But we want to encourage those who can do with their children to do work with them, and we want to encourage them, especially reading. They can do some extra reading at home where possible.
Okay. In terms of The destruction of the buildings and rehabilitating them, kind of figure be given to say the amount of loss that the Ministry of Education suffered and how much that will be needed to bring back all the schools to their previous forms or states?
We are still waiting on actual figures in terms of the estimates of losses, but from the from preliminary discussions in terms of losses, because the losses is great. It's not just the physical structure. We have loss of curriculum materials, we have things like our equipment, even chalkboards, our furniture. In some cases you see the furniture broken up. We see furniture where once it got water swell up and then we cannot use it. The loss is tremendous. With the preliminary figures we are looking at is over $250 million. But as I said earlier, we're still doing our physical assessments so that we can have concrete figures in terms of our losses, our damages, and especially our needs towards recovery.
I don't know if this question, or you can probably answer this question. And I am one of those persons who is an advocate for sport and its development in any system. The sports division, I know, has serious challenges as it pertains to getting schools, and I say all schools, involved in a decent sports program. How challenging is this for the Ministry of Education? And are you paying attention or any attention at all to that aspect of the children's development? Because it would seem as if when we talk of education, we seem to leave out that physical aspect of it. And physical education for me is important in any child's development. Can you speak to this issue?
Okay. We are not leaving out physical education and sports. We are challenged in areas where we have the school plant still, especially for the plain area, maybe still under debris. But we are looking at providing some sort of recreation for our students. We have received a number of recreation kits, and we are in the process of distributing those to schools. And that too will help with providing some sort of means for recreation for our students. Those kits include balls, footballs, different balls, skipping ropes, things that we can engage the students in physical activity. So for now, as part of the psychosocial support, physical activity is part of it. So we are mindful of the importance of recreation and physical activity for our students. I heard recently the sports division announced their football league. I know the schools which can participate will participate. The challenge is where we do not have all the students at school. But once we have all our students at school, I know physical education and sports is important to us. As one of the subjects in the reduced curriculum that we are providing, we're asking the schools to work on, physical education and sports is one of those areas that we're asking the schools to focus on as well, because we recognize the importance of play, we recognize the importance of physical activity in the whole post-Hurricane Maria recovery effort. That is good enough for you, Mr. Thomas?
I'll take it for now.
Thank you very much to the PS once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely grateful for this update from the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development this morning. You may know, if you do not, let me remind you that education, a serious, sound education and access to education are hallmarks of this Dominica Labour Party government. And so getting back to where education was pre-Hurricane Maria, I imagine is of the utmost importance to the Ministry of Education and certainly the government of Dominica. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of the podium presenters this morning and the other officials of the Ministry of Education who gave us this update this morning. The impact on education is wide because it is, of course, one of the most widely distributed sectors in the country. So I thank the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, Chandler Hyacinth, the Chief Education Officer, Melina Fontaine, the Assistant Chief Education Officer, Dr. Jeffrey Blaise, and the CXC Local Registrar, Marjorie Celestine. Thank you all for being here this morning. Thank you all for updating us. Again, I want to give my thanks to the media here, and I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of the Dominicans, especially those of you overseas who make it your point of duty to tune in to listen to the updates here in Dominica post-Hurricane Marie in Connecticut, and thousands of Dominicans everywhere around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, one and all, have a great day.